I go by Naka Valley on TikTok and other socials, and I will be kind of
the official word for moderating. Yeah. I'll be moderating tonight. I don't need a mic. I'm very loud. I'll let Mike tell and
Talk to the mic.
yours is on.
this one's on.
Thank you.
All I was going to say was I was going to let Michael and Hannah introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the official launch of Money in Your 20s. It is a personal finance workbook that took me the last 2 years of my life to create, and it's something that's super special. And I'm super excited to chat about it, ask questions, answer questions, and make this a super safe space to talk about money.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Hannah. Checking this is on. I am the founder of Salary Transparency. You may have seen some of our videos. We ask people what they do for a living and how much they make. Super excited to be here and to support you at your book launch, especially we talk about money, so many things in common, so many things, valuable things that we can share with you also. Here you go.
So I'm going to be asking them. So I'm going to be asking you guys some questions. Obviously, we had a discussion about what we were going to be talking about, and we want you guys to take everything in, and then we want it to be a safe space to discuss money at the end. And just if you really have any questions, we are here to answer them. So, and again, obviously, Michael and Hannah are experts, but I have gone through like 37 different careers since I've been in school. I don't think I'll be able to put a job, so I can answer your questions from that perspective. So what do you ladies think is important, just like a very general question, what is something that is important to think about when it comes to your job, your money, your income in your 20s?
I love this question. I feel like when it comes to your job, your income, your 20s is the foundation of where you can start your financial future and where you really need to start your money journey. I mean, this is when you're just graduated college or you're just transitioning into adulthood. I talked about on my platform about me negotiating my first salary, and a $2,000 salary negotiation can exponentially grow my lifetime earnings by like $20,000 or $200,000, I think, with math. And like those little things do add up because you have the time, you have the time is on your side in your 20s. And I think that's what's really important, is that you can make the mistakes, but you can also learn so much in your 20s.
I guess I'll be switching the mic on. I'm not as loud, sorry. I'm being a little loud. Really echoing what you said, that in your 20s, I feel like a lot of young workers feel like they're not worthy of asking for more or thinking that they could earn more, and that's so wrong. Your value as a worker is not based on your years of experience. That's one factor, but all the other factors come into play as well. Your education, your experiences in all your other jobs, and also your skills. That's the value that we bring to the company, and that's what you can use when you negotiate. And if you don't negotiate, like you said, that's going to carry you into your 20s, into your 30s, into your 40s, and past retirement. You lose out on lifetime earnings, so it's a big mistake not to think that you're worth it.
What is something that you guys like? Obviously, negotiating salaries, negotiating money, like especially when you're fresh out of college, is like really nerve-wracking. What is some tips that you guys would give for like negotiating your salary, or like you just got your dream job, like now y'all need to pay me?
My first recommendation is always to negotiate via email, and I like to negotiate via email because you get kind of nervous, like you're on the phone or if you're face to face with a recruiter and you're like, okay, well, how much money do you want? And you put out a number and you look at their face and maybe they scrunch their face up, or maybe you don't know what you should be asking for in that role. So I like to have my points out list them via email and say either you can meet them or you can't meet them, and if you can't, let's find something in the middle. What'd you say, Hannah?
I love that. I think that's probably the number one. I would say my second option would be to negotiate. You're doing yourself a disservice not doing it. And then also doing the market research. And when you have that call with a recruiter, ask them upfront in the first conversation. Don't drag it out to the second call or the third call. Talk about pay immediately. It saves everyone's time. It gets you on the same page about your pay expectations. And it gives you a good idea, like, is this worth it or not? You don't want to waste your time and travel, commute to an interview only to find out it's not paying you what you think you're worth. So ask up front. One of my tricks that was the first time I ever tried to negotiate, I asked the recruiter on the phone in the first call, can you share the budget for the role with me? When she asked me what my salary expectations were, I just flipped it on her, and she told me what the budget was, and thankfully she did, because it was $10,000 more than I was planning to ask. So if you can get them to say a number instead of you trying to get it out of them any which way and sharing something that could put yourself in a bad situation, give them to say it first.
I think like the biggest thing, or I'm speaking from my own experience, and right after fresh after college, I was living at home, so I wasn't necessarily paying rent. I wasn't like just gotta buy groceries, like that type of thing. But it's the first time that you're getting all this cash flow in, and you're not living off like work steady or like refund checks. What is something that people can do to like start saving their money early, so that by the time they're like me and my Kel's age, like you have a good little like nest egg.
So in the book, I talk about savings. Obviously, like savings is like really the pinnacle of things that I like to talk about. The main thing that I have to let people know is to have a separate savings account. Like your savings account should not be touching your bill pay money. Should not be next to the money that you're using for fun, and it should be next to the money that you're trying to save to grow save to do something for yourself in the future. So I'm always a big supporter of having separate savings account in a different bank, and that's the number one thing that you should do, and automate it. So once you open up that new savings account, then put that on auto pay so it can grow without you touching it.
Speaking about savings accounts, it's never too early or late to get a high-yield savings account. Your money can earn more money, higher interest than standard banks are like 0.5% or something. So, a 3% interest rate is always a win. So definitely get a high-yield savings account. I would say from my experience, I've made a lot of mistakes where when you start earning more, you spend more, and that lifestyle starts coming in. So having a budget was really imperative to me to stay on the right path and not overspend. But also, we have to be realistic. Being really strict with our budgets sometimes can have the opposite effect. It's kind of like a diet. Diets don't work. You're going to eventually want to indulge some way. And I think that lends itself to money too. So let yourself, spend things. Let those endorphins come. Enjoy what you spend your money on. But find value in how you spend your money, because that makes it feel so much better when you spend it and also when you save it.
Okay, so when I saw this in like an outline, I started laughing because I often say like, it does not matter how much money I make, I'm going to split it before. Like I'm going to do Afterpay, Klarna, I know all the ones. So like in terms of buy now, pay later, what is y'all's hot tips on that?
So we have to talk about buy now, pay later in the workbook too. And I felt like it was really important to talk about buy now, pay later because we were split it in four. And there are so many different ways that you can use buy now, pay later that works for your budget and that is healthy. And it's not, I don't think that it's the worst thing to do to split it in four with 0% interest. But I think that you should have some spending rules or like some boundaries when it comes to your buy now, pay later. So you should know how many times you used it. If you know that you already have two split boards, I'm going to make it another one, so then now you got more split boards. But creating those boundaries, understanding like what you're using it for, and having a plan for it is, I think that's the best way to use buy now, pay later. I don't think that it's the worst thing to do. Sometimes it makes more sense to split it in four just to see if you like the product. If you don't, you can send it back and you will pay $25 for something that costs $100. So I'm not anti buy now, pay later, but I think that it's really worth mentioning and understanding. what they can be used for.
Get things.
It can get dangerous quickly, but I think that with anything, everything can get dangerous quickly. Like using a credit card can get dangerous quickly. Not saving can get dangerous quickly. It's more of like understanding your personal boundaries, creating boundaries for your money, and sticking to those boundaries.
I don't know much more to add to that. That was so succinct, so perfect. I guess the only thing I would say is track it. I know I've used buy now, pay later, where the first payment looks like something I can totally afford, a quarter of the total cost, and then you forget about it, and next month you may have overspent on your budget. I've been there, and then it's like, oh crap, I forgot about this buy now, pay later, this one payment. It's not in my budget, I overspent. So just tracking it, making sure you put it in your budget, make sure you know, okay, next month I didn't spend it now, but I will later. It's going to come to my budget later on, so you're not taken off guard. But but
Sorry. Okay, so this question is for Michael. What is bank framework?
So I created a custom framework, and it's called Check Your Bank. And I think that everyone should check your bank before you spend your money. So the B stands for bring. So every money decision brings you something. Does it bring you peace? Does it bring you happiness? Does it bring you away from pain that might happen? So what does the decision bring to you? The A stands for afford. Can you afford this decision? And it's not just can you afford it right now? And Jay-Z says you gotta afford it twice before you can buy it. But let's talk about the maintenance. So if you're buying a car, what's the maintenance on that? What's the insurance? What's the gas? Like everything that you're adding to your budget, there are some maintenance fees associated with it. So can you afford everything that comes with it? The N stands for now or later. So do you need to make this decision now, or can you wait a little bit later? And then the K stands for knock off, because I know the girls like a good do, but if you love a good do, if sometimes if you want to buy a thing, you can just get the do or get the knockoff of it. So that's what
My auntie does that if you need a plug. I have plugs now.
I have a Chanel, and everyone's like, I love your Chanel. I'm like, they'll never know.
Ain't nothing wrong with the game.
I love it.
Ain't nothing wrong with the game.
Oh, sorry. I was going to get on the gate. Sorry. Hannah, this question is for you. Can you talk about, I know your thing is with work, but what do you do to create strong and positive spending habits?
Yeah, so what I try to tell people is what can you do with the money you earn? And that's really where budgeting comes in and having a plan. What are your financial goals? We all have goals. We've got long-term goals, we've got short-term goals. There's the shoes or the bag we want to purchase, and then there's the house. Setting ourselves up ahead of time and setting that plan, maybe it's a couple of years out, it can always go kind of like, oh gosh, I want something right now, I want the immediate gratification, but money is an exercise, it's something that we constantly have to work at and constantly flex that muscle, and so sometimes it takes a little bit of time to reach those goals, but earning more money every single year and setting that goal of next year I want to earn 2 or 3% more, next year I'm going to job hop and I'm going to earn 10% more. That's going to help you get closer to your goals, and so positive spending habits is really just what is the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's the motivation to get there.
All right, so we're going to pivot here. Next topic is what should we be doing with our paychecks? What are we getting into when it comes to the mistakes that we make with money in our 20s? I can tell you I got a credit card, it's been 7 years, I just dropped off collections. So, right, that was no way a win is a win. And I don't work for Notion no more, so it works. But what did y'all advise in terms of what should, we all want to go on a trip, that type of thing. We want to have extra money. When we have extra money, the difference between treat yourself and then saving and building yourself up for the future.
Yeah. So, I guess, first, what if you had your dream salary? What would be the first thing that you buy? You don't have to shout it out, but think about that in your head. What would you buy if you had your dream salary? And I asked that question because when I was in college, me and my friends, we would always talk about when we get our big girl job. I always said that I'm gonna get some new teeth. I hated my teeth. I'm gonna get new teeth and look great.
She was going to Columbia.
I was like, you gotta do something about this. But when I got that paycheck, I did not spend anything on any dental. I did not go see the dentist or anything. And did not really have me to like kind of look at like, I said that I was going to do something and I didn't. And spending your money or thinking the things that you want it's not outrageous. If that's what you want to spend your money on and you're safe, you're protected, you got your house, you got food, then you can spend your money on whatever. I always say if your savings is stacked and your bills are paid, who am I to tell you what to spend your money on or what feels good? And I think that a lot of times when we're having money conversations, it's always about like, oh, we have to invest in for the future. You need to invest in for the future. You need to do all of these things for the future. So then when the future comes, how do I know what to spend on and how do I know what's comfortable? And so in the book, I go, like the spending chapter is super long because I don't have to tell anybody how to spend their money, but I can give you the tools to help you be more strategic in the way that you spend your money. And that's really the goal I feel like for anyone is being strategic in the way that you spend your money. Because you know how to spend money.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how to spend money. It's not hard. They make it very easy for you to spend money, but to spend it in a strategic way that still makes you feel happy, accomplished, and successful while still building for future you.
And what are your guys' tips, Hannah, too, on like creating a budget? What does a budget look like?
I think people overcomplicate a budget when it can be very simple. I have mine in a Google spreadsheet, Google Sheets, whatever it is, and it's, what is my rent, what is my mortgage that month, and I break out the different ways that my money is coming in and different ways that the money is coming out. Break out your rent, your mortgage, break out your utilities, break out your gas, the fun things. You're going to have a fun spending bucket. But just don't overcomplicate it. There's so many, I'm sure there's an amazing template in your book as well. There's tons of templates out there that will make it very simple. It's just a matter of putting your money that's coming in different buckets and not overspending, trying to live within your means and having those goals, because I think it's a lot easier to budget when you have that goal, like that light at the end of the tunnel. It makes it feel a little better when you're like, okay, I'm not going to spend money this month, on this bag. I'm going to wait, and then once you reach that goal, it feels so great. So it's just putting that into practice.
And obviously, the book is a workbook, so I take you through my flexible budget, and it breaks it down into 4 parts. So your first part is about your income. We talked about our income first, like how much money is coming in. And always, I like to have a goal of increasing my income by 10% every year. And that could be any kind of way, through side hustles, through asking for a promotion at work. But year over year, for the last 6 years that I've worked in corporate, I've accomplished having a 10% increase for the last 6 years. And so focusing on increasing your income, then you go in through your expenses and paying your bills. What do your bills look like? Your fixed versus your flexible. What's going out? So you need to know what's coming in, what's going out, and then you have to save for the future. You have to pay future you. And then after you have your bills paid, and your savings is stacked, and then the last step is to spend. So spend on whatever you want.
I'm really good at that. What are your guys' tips for like long-term investments? If you start early, you can set yourself up to buy your time for 30. You might not have as many words and cares as the rest of us. So what do y'all think is like good long-term investments?
So the first investment that I feel like anyone should make in themselves is your 401k or any employer-related retirement account, and that's the first way that you can become an investor. There's 70% of people have access to a 401k or a employer-related account, but about 56% of Americans who have access to that actually use it. And a lot of times it's because we don't know the power of a 401k, or we don't know the power of an employer-related retirement account, or we think that if we put our money in this retirement account, then we don't get to touch it, and we don't get to use it. One of my things now, I'm in the process of buying my first house, and I can use the money that I've been building up over the last 6 years in my 401k to purchase my first property. Like that's the type of access that your retirement account can give to you when you are using it strategically. And it's not putting a bunch of money in there. I've never maxed it out. I don't put more than 10% of my income in there, but that's how I've been able to grow my wealth in the last couple of years.
I love that. I think 401ks are such a unconsidered part of the long-term wealth journey. It's your money. It's free money. My dad would always tell me, it's free money. Like, contribute to your 401k. Yeah, and I'm glad he did because at the time I was thinking like, this is my money. I don't get to spend it. It's going to be taken out of my paycheck. But it's your money. At the end of the day, you get to double it. It's a really good investment in yourself. The other thing I would add there, good long-term investments are index funds. That's personally what I invest in. In the stock market, I try to do long-term. You know, I'm in my 20s as well. My dad is on the other side. He's in retirement. So he's looking at, like, how do I manage, you know, the wealth that I built? And it's interesting to learn about how people invest differently at different stages in their life. And I always talk to him about what's he doing and how can I do the opposite, because I'm at that wealth growing stage, not wealth management. So wealth growing is investing your money in the stock market and putting it in places that you know are going to fuel long-term growth, which is those index funds. Those are safe, those are secure, they're less risky than if you want to invest in Facebook or something, which, you know, could crash, and, you know, who knows how that will do.
Okay, so this fact that y'all had on here kind of threw me, because as someone with older parents who can barely work their iPhones, my dad he has a flip phone still. So when you said Gen Z is 3 more times likely to fall for a financial scam than baby boomers.
Yeah.
I said can't be the baby boomers, I know.
Oh, absolutely.
But how does that happen?
So there's a couple different types of scams that especially younger people are falling for. Number one is like the Social Security scam. If you didn't know, Social Security nor the IRS will never email you or call you. They send things through the mail. They're going to send it through the mail. But so that's one thing. But also another really big thing is I was talking to a friend about this. Romance scams are really common for younger people. You know, they're
Like the Tinder swindler?
like the Tinder swindler. Like, he's not the only one swindling. It is very common. And I think the other one is related to like how we buy. So about six out of 10 transactions are done online. And when you grow up using the internet and you're buying everything online, you're used to buying everything online. Sometimes you're not paying attention. Sometimes like on Instagram they have the scams where it's, you know, the brand looks familiar, but then it's like, oh, we're having a sale for $5.99 and the dress usually costs $200. And so that's how they're stealing your information. And sometimes when I talk about cybersecurity, and that's the last chapter in the book is about cybersecurity, because I think that cybersecurity is a part of your financial plan, and you need to be smart about your cybersecurity, because that's all of our money is online now. All of our accounts are accessed online, so you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself in that way. You know, the robber's not going to come up to your face anymore. They're going to swipe your credit card information. When they have access to that, like, think about when you sign up for your credit card, how much information do you have to give to them? Like, you're giving your social security number, you're giving your address, you're giving your phone number, and then when you go out, if you're like talking to somebody and they ask you for your phone number, you give them your phone number, and now they have access to your accounts in that way. So that's how a lot of times Gen Zers or younger folks are getting scammed online and just not realizing it until it's too late.
I mean, as an avid watcher of 90 Day Fiancé, I would teach you all about this. And this question is for Hannah. So in terms of employment scams, we got romance and we got employment.
Yeah.
What questions should folks be asking?
That's a crazy statistic also that I was doing my research before this, and I saw that employment scams have gone up 118% in the last year, which is crazy. And the way that employment scams are coming about is when people are looking at jobs on valid platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed. People are posting jobs on these platforms acting as an employer that they are not, or they're saying something that seems too good to be true under a fake employer name. They're saying remote job, solid salary, all the benefits. If it seems too good to be true in all forms of finance, I think it applies that it usually is, and that really lends itself to employment. The reason that employment scams really frighten me so much is because of how much information they're getting from people under the premise of, a good opportunity, which for me, I like to think a good-hearted person really irks me. I'm like, we need to end this. Call the police, because they're asking people for their social security numbers, their finance information. Sometimes they'll say, oh, we're going to send you a check to buy a laptop, on our bill. But when you cash the check, it'll give them access to your account, or they'll ask you to send the money back. One way or another, they're getting access to your account. So I think what's really important to remember overall when you're applying to jobs, always try to find the source of the job listing. Don't apply on LinkedIn, don't apply on Indeed. Always look up the company and apply on their careers page. If the company doesn't exist or it's giving you a red flag, weird vibes, trust your gut. Always trust your gut. You can also send an email and be like, hey, I saw this listing here, but I just want to confirm, is this valid? And there's usually an email on the company site that you can reach out to. It's better to be safe than sorry. The other thing is, no true job application will ask you for really personal information, like your credit card, your bank information, even your social security number or date of birth. Those are not things that they should be asking for, and you should not feel pressured to supply them if they ask. Always be like, no, I'm okay, this is all you need, we'll move on to the next step. They should only ask for that once you've been hired, once you get that offer and you've accepted. The other thing is, oh, now it just escaped me. Let me think really quick. Always confirm that the job is real, but then also just do your due diligence. Double check, don't give out that information, trust your gut, and you should be good.
My brother actually fell for taking the check to the bank scam. And luckily, and it was when it had first started, so they weren't as aware. And luckily, the bank teller was a black man. He was like, bro, no. No. And he came back, and I had driven him to the bank, and he was like, I said, what happened? He was like, don't told me it was a scam. It's funny now, but that could have ended way differently and been really crazy. Michael, what are some principles or what are some simple finance principles?
That's a good question. So I'll start with the first thing is to have boundaries and to understand your own habits. I think that we all, as individuals, we all interact with our money differently. Some people spend more freely than other people. Some people are spenders. Some people are savers, and some people are somewhere in between. But create the boundaries and stick to what you said that you were going to do. Like, this is a promise that when you're interacting with your money, this is a promise between you and your dollars. And if you can't respect yourself enough to stick to what you said or stick to the promise that you made to yourself, like, think about how you are thinking of yourself internally. So I always stick to the boundaries that you set, create those boundaries, and create that time with your money. You have to look at your money, you have to interact with it, no matter how bad it is at the starting point. I always say, like, we all start from zero, but actually that's not always true. Like, some of us are starting from less than zero. Like, I have $75,000 worth of student loan debt, so that's less than zero. Like, you're starting less than zero, and I know that can be overwhelming and be scary, especially with your credit cards. If you have a bunch of credit cards and things like that, it can feel daunting, but the first step is to just start. And when you start, you'll build those money muscles.
And then, just in a general sense, like not necessarily in any of the ones we talked about, what do you both think are some common mistakes that young adults make in terms of budgeting, spending, taking out credit cards, anything?
I think getting started with the lifestyle creed. Like the first time I got paid, like I said, I blew $5,000 in like 2 weeks, and my mama was just looking at me coming from the mall with like bags, Kate Spade, Apple, all of these bags, and she was like, And then also when you're thinking, when you are on your college budget for what, 4 to 5 years, for me it's 5 years, like 5 years we've been like putting our $5 bills together for one bottle of liquor. And now it's good liquor, like cheap bottles. But now you're telling me that I'm getting paid like $2,000 or $3,000 every 2 weeks. I'm gonna buy a bar, like of course. Where else
Good with the bell on the top.
Absolutely. Give me the bottle.
Right.
And so it's a lot of it is just like realizing that it's going to happen. But I think the bigger thing is like, don't be embarrassed by your mistakes. Like everybody has made a bad money decision. Everybody has made a money mistake. You're not going to be the first person to make a money mistake. You're not going to be the last. And I think the other thing is me having candid conversations with my friends. So having candid conversations about what we're doing financially and what our plans are, and being like really open with like, I don't really have the money right now. Like I don't got it, or like this is the plans that I'm trying to make. This is what I'm trying to do in the future. So we want to have to change how we
Can't go to Miami.
We can't go to Miami, but like we can do a little staycation like in Myrtle Beach or something. Like and just kind of like close our eyes and pretend like it's Miami. but like I think those are like the main things that really I really found were helpful for me in my money journey as I progressed overall. Like in college, it was very common for us to talk about our salaries. Like we kind of made it like a competition. But I didn't know that everyone was enjoying that. But our graduating class was about like 25 of us, and it was like a competition of who got an offer and how much was your offer, or are you negotiating? Those were conversations that our professors had with us. And so it was so normal. So then to come out into the real world and realize that no one's talking about money was really interesting to me.
I love that you talked about talking about money, because that would have been mine. I think it's so important to talk about it, to normalize it. We can only get to the point of normalizing it if we talk about it, and it's so easy to start just with your friends and family in a safe space, and then you can branch out to with your colleagues. I would say for employment, money mistakes that people make is not learning about your state's laws for employment and how that can impact you. Just recently, July or June 30th, DC passed the pay transparency law. So if you weren't aware, if you weren't aware, companies, I believe, that have at least 10 or more employees must list pay ranges in their job listings. And if you work at the company and they qualify, they also have to share that pay information with you for internal and external transfers, promotions, all of that. So pay transparency is now available to us. It's a really important thing to be aware of, because it can help you learn, how much you're worth in different areas, negotiate effectively. You just don't want to be leaving any money on the table. The other thing that I would say, lifestyle creep is such a big one, but also there's so much pressure in your 20s to be perfect and to do everything right. And when you make a mistake, it can feel like such a low, like, oh gosh, I'm never going to get that money back. But I think we all need to give ourselves grace. We're babies in terms of having access to money, like real money. We're gonna make mistakes. We're like the babies of, having access to this. So with that comes crawling and walking and really flexing that money muscle, like you said. So give yourself grace, give yourself patience, talk to your friends, talk to your family. There's always something that you don't know that you can learn from others. So just be open to the conversation.
I definitely put a job behind finding out someone who had my job to make this significantly more than I was.
And you should have that right too. Maryland also has a salary transparency law as well. So any jobs that you apply to in Maryland should also tell you how much is the pay range.
And then lastly, we have a Q&A portion set up for anyone who might have any questions about what we're talking about. I am going to start it off, just because I thought this was a really good question. What if you didn't grow up learning about money and wealth management? I think that's something that happens a lot. Like you guys say, like, we get grown, and if you didn't see your parents, especially if your parents in have a certain lifestyle, it can be overwhelming, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, even down taxes, filing taxes, it can be a lot. What do you guys suggest on that?
So in the beginning of the book, I talk about money trauma because money trauma is real, and regardless if your parents talk to you about money or not, you learned about money from them. You either learned how to pay bills or to not pay bills. You learned how to interact. If you saw your parents like hang up on bill collectors when you were growing up, then that's something that you're internalizing. Like you understand or you feel collectors are bad. Yeah.
Get it back to
So. Oh, yeah.
You have a question?
So, like, a lot of us, especially as Black people, are the first high earners in our family. So, what would you say to us who have, like, family members who, like, ask for money and, like, how we can manage that and not feel guilty about, huh? Yeah, and, like, to not feel guilty if you do say no.
Yeah. So, the first part is put your gas mask on first. Like, you have to get your own financial footing before you can give money to other people. But then the other thing that one of my friends kind of put me onto, and I thought was such a cool idea, was to have like a small savings account of like, for the year, for this next 12 months, I have $2,000 in this savings account for whatever family member asks for money. And you got 12 months. You got 12 months, and whenever that money run out, I don't have it. So then there's that balance where you can still help your family, you can still like give them money, but you're still having that boundary of this is how much I've set aside to help other people that aren't me. And I also have like rules about who I will and won't give money to.
Because it can't be someone you have to talk to.
If you ain't talked to me in 6 months,
That's crazy.
the answer is already automatic. No.
I flex that muscle a lot. No.
If you ain't even call to check on me and just like see if I'm alive and breathing.
Something that I also do, just because I'm going through this right now with like, members seeing me on social media and thinking I got it and I don't. I always, if they ask for it, obviously rule of thumb, don't give it if you don't have to ask for it back. But I've noticed I always try and bust it down in half. So if you ask me for 500, I can do 200, 250. I'll give that to you, and then I don't even expect it back. But I have noticed since I started doing that, it gets a little less because you're not just
Yeah, negotiate everything.
Negotiate, yeah, because they're not gonna turn down $200 $3. That's a $3.
I'm literally going through that now where, we live on social media and I'm very transparent to my detriment at some points about how much we make. And last year, our business, caveat, our business made over $1 million. And that's not what I took home. That's how much the business made. But when you're saying that on social media, family members see that and they're like, ding, 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 we got somebody in the family that can now supply. And I think that it's a shame when that happens because money can really ruin relationships with family and friends. But also, my advice, how I've tried to approach it, and hit or miss, this might work for some or not, but I would say, ask them if you can help them with their money. Like, hey, can we talk about it? Like, what are you struggling with? I can't help you financially this month, but I learned a little bit. I read her book. I can buy it for you, and we can work through these problems together or figure out what's wrong, how we can navigate it forward. Helping one another is sometimes the best way instead of financially helping one another.
That would not work on my family.
That would work on my people. If they asked me for $200 and I gave them a book, I'm probably have to stop.
I have a question. Does anyone else have a question?
Okay, so we're talking about like family. I have a nephew who went from being spoiled and getting everything he wants from his aunties and his uncles, and his main source of income passed away, who gave him everything he wanted. So now he's getting to the stage where he's almost the high schooler, where he can start working and having to understand the value of money. So as an adult, I have to explain to him my money situation and how he falls into my budget, but how can we as adults help the younger generation realize the value of money and how you fit into my budget, and when you start making your money, this is how you need to think. Especially when we taught them like, hey, I'm sacrificing a lot to give you the things that you want, and now you're in a position where you have your own money, and you're too young to learn how to sacrifice to get those things. If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Actually, I opened my nephew's first savings account or checking bank account. So I am also that auntie. Like we opened his first bank account. I don't give him too much money, just like $50 every 2 weeks. I put $50 in that account. 49 of those dollars came out that exact same day. 49 of those dollars, those $50 came out. And so I think part of that is just letting them learn or letting them figure out that this is what it is. So I gave you this $50. You're not going to get another 50 for another 2 weeks because that's how I get paid. That's how my life works. I get paid every 2 weeks. So either you want to go, and he'll go with that account at $1 for 2 weeks until he gets the next 50, and then maybe the next week comes to 47. So
Just like that. Just like you.
and that's fine, I think. And so I've had the internal battle of like, do I preach to him like, oh, like you need to be saving, but like he's 16, like he's going to have to figure it out himself as well. So we still do have those open conversations. I ask him about like, what are you spending your money on and those kind of things. But I let him have his free range to understand that if you keep spending your money fast, you won't have any money to do anything else with. So that's how I'm in the same boat, girl. I'm not hyping him to stop spending money.
I would say the same thing, so I don't know nothing about my kids.
So I know we talked a little bit about like kind of things seeming too good to be true. I think in this era of social media, a lot of times you see people who are living a lifestyle at this age that almost seems a little bit too good to be true. Kind of that mindset of trying to keep up with the Joneses, especially when you enter a new tax bracket or you're in a new stage of life. What recommendations do you have in terms of maintaining the right mindset when it comes to maintaining your money, whether it comes to making a bad money decision and recovering from it, or comparing yourself to other people who you feel like you should be keeping up with or doing the same things that they are?
Yeah. I'm going to start that with a lot of those people are in like serious credit card debt, and I'm not joking. A lot of people are in serious credit card debt, and they have my DMs asking me like, for a discount code for the book. But I also get it. Like it's really hard because you see, some people get into promotions, people are spending the money, and part of that is just like logging off but also realizing that a lot of people they're faking, and a lot of people are in serious credit card debt or in serious debt trying to portray what they're supposed to be. I think I looked at the statistic. Statistically, 17% of the entire U.S. population is making $100,000 or more. So then how come like everybody on social media is making $100,000? Like, something's not adding up. So a lot of people are not really saying or doing what they said that they are. And that's what
I think it's that too a little bit. Just having this past year for real stepped into like, I guess the influencer ring. It's all mine. And I think being for real, I moved to Houston 4 years ago, and I finally got to the point last year where I had a choice to stay in my like humble ethnic home. It's 4-week supply shop very close to where I live. I didn't call it the hood. I think it's very nice. My neighbors are older people who own their houses in the 70s and 80s. But there are people a couple blocks over who get down. But like I could have moved to a luxury apartment, but I like to travel a lot. And I go on trips every month. And see what on TikTok you're seeing is me on trips every month, Becca's in DR, Becca's in, but y'all not understanding that my cost of living is very low. So you kind of have to and also I drive a bucket. But I just, but I got my license when I was 25 and I was still hitting the curb. So it didn't make sense for me to go buy a brand new car and get somewhere $2,500 on the marketplace. So all I'm saying all that to say, you have to pick and choose what's important to you. To me, I like my house. It doesn't bother me. I like my car. It doesn't bother me. Now, what I do want to do is be outside every once in a while. So, you have to know yourself.
Opportunity costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just echo that the amount of people who are actually making the amount of money that you would need to afford some of these fancy cars like the Mercedes and the BMWs that you see around here, I just remind myself of the statistic, and how much those cars cost. At the end of the day, like, they're paying the bills on that car, and they don't feel good about it at the end of the day. So I think it's just being content with where you are and what you value in your life. Like you said, your cost of living, the people around you, your environment. One of the things people want to talk about with everyone trying to buy a house now, props to you, by the way, it's very hard. It is an accomplishment. It's a huge accomplishment. But I think something that I've seen on social media that has, stayed with me is the amount of people talking about how lonely they are now that they've left the city. They're no longer in these communities that were maybe cheaper. They're in their nice fancy house, but they're further away from these people that make life enjoyable. There's always an opportunity cost. So figure out what that is to you, what's valuable to you. Just be content with where you are. Don't look at the social media, what they're all posting. Like you said, they're in your DMs.
They're on the gate too. They're
Yeah, they are. And the last thing I'll say on that too, when I was interning, so I was like 19, 20, I was interning at a financial company, and I got into one of the like higher up VPs gave me a ride to the happy hour. And this man was driving a Honda Civic. And it was a nice Honda Civic. It was like top of the line, all the bells and whistles. And he was like, yeah, I would never pay more than $400 for a car. And that one piece of advice stuck with me since I was 20. And I would never pay more than $400 for a car.
shout out to the bucket. He needs I have no car, but I always say that. Cash car girl for life.
Especially these scammers, they always have to look like they have money
Yeah.
to ask you for money.
You always gotta look like you have money to get people to give you money.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. No, that's the order. Yes. Okay. So I think for me, by nature, I'm a very analytical person. And sometimes I find that I have a budget on Google Sheets, but I get into analysis paralysis. And specifically, do I do my budget proactive or reactive or both? And then I find that I'm like calculating all these costs, doing all these numbers, and then I often am just like spinning my wheels. So what's your recommendation for keeping it simple yet flexible and something that you actually want to come back to without overcomplicating it?
I feel like I have the same problem, and that's why I switched to creating the flexible budget, where I have everything. Again, I know how much money's coming in. I know how much money's going out. Like that's the basic thing that you need for your budget. But for me, like trying to estimate how much money I'm going to spend on my hair this month. Like 1 month I make a braids, so I'm spending $200 this month, but I won't spend money for the next 2 months. So then that kind of throws off my numbers. And I can't plan my hairstyles that far in advance. So like those were the things that like kind of threw me off. So I wanted to create a space or create a budget that kind of worked with my habits and gave me the free range to spend the money. So I know that if it's in my spending account, I can spend it however I see fit because I already put the money in my savings and I already paid my bills. So that was a way for me to kind of step out of the numbers and use the money for what it's supposed to do. And yeah, that's my answer.
I would say that as well. Maybe also, it might do the opposite effect. I would just try it. I can see how analysis paralysis can come into play here if you try to approach it by a week-by-week basis, but sometimes with flexible spending and wanting something different on different weeks, approaching your budget on a week-by-week basis can sometimes help. But I really think that that's the best advice. That putting the money that needs to be spent and put in different places, putting that in buckets first, and then being left with your spending account and being like, this is what I've got for the month. That's probably the best way.
I think they have karaoke here. He's doing it. Well, thank you, okay.
My question,
I'll let you know. No, yeah.
Awesome. My question was in regards to salary transparency. If you have a recruiter text you, email you, and they aren't, how would you respond to someone who's presenting a job to you, but they're not being transparent, knowing that this law has been passed? And let's say sometimes recruiters can be kind of and you say, hey, like this salary is supposed to, just have this range, and they say something. How would you communicate? What advice would you give on how to basically communicate? Like, oh no, this is I don't want to say this is a law, because then I'm gonna, it could be tense, just a more calm interaction. So
I would say this is the law. But not only that, companies that are avoiding the law in this way, it's a detriment to you and every other worker. It's not something that we should take lightly. It's the law. There's also repercussions. If they don't obey, you can report them to DC's labor department, and there are fines. There are things that are put in place to keep them from averting it. Because the impact is you don't know how much the job pays, and you're running around in circles and you're stressed out. There's something that they should legally be responsible for doing. That is something that workers, we need to stop trying to tiptoe. Absolutely be respectful. Absolutely don't burn bridges, but hold them accountable. If they're not obeying a law, you can respectfully say, DC passed the pay range transparency law on June 30th. It was signed into law. This is the requirement. I'd be happy to come back to this job and apply again once the information is updated, but until that information is provided, I'm not interested in moving forward. They'll learn very quickly that the amount of people that don't move forward because of them not doing this is going to harm them. And you might, you might be taking the hard step there and doing the courageous thing, but you're helping so many workers. So just be courageous. Don't worry about their feelings, because F their feelings, okay? This is your money and your employment. Can I say that?
I guess
I'm not getting the job, but you get to look at.
And also, you don't want to work there anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to work
That's a
there.
red flag. It's terrible. Yeah. Talk about it on social. I'll pop them up.
Then,
Since I'm a big fan, there's one thing I'm not seeing addressed. Say money in the 20s. What about the boomers? Because we long forgotten. What the ones that didn't do everything right and all like that, and now retired and got money and just looking for another means of really investing and splitting it up and making more, making it last. Huh? But yeah, I said baby boomers because I don't know the JYXE. I don't know the other. Huh?
boomers is easy. They should have given us easy moves like boomers.
Yeah, but back then you wasn't taught about, like you said, when you enter the workplace,
Yeah.
get your 401k, because all they were looking for was working for you and getting the money. And if you were never taught that from the beginning, even if you were learning it in a progression along the way, but still, you would book more or less incorporate them into a lot of the schemes.
So I don't really talk too much about investing. The workbook is really to create the foundation for if you want to start investing or doing anything like that. But I love talking about investing. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. Investing in index funds, tracking the S&P 500. I saw a really interesting video, but if you don't know how the S&P 500 works, it takes the top 500 companies in the U.S. That are trading publicly, and if you say you put $10 in it, they split your money up across all of the top 500 companies that are successful. They have to, I think their market cap has to be over 18 billion. And the other thing that I like about the S&P 500 is that if the company is starting to fail, they'll take them out. So that's why the S&P 500 continues to grow and continues to be at the top, because, or it continues to grow even when it dips, because they take out the bad ones and they replace them with companies that are growing. So that's my advice when it comes to, or is also working with a financial professional. My financial advisor is here today. Shout out to Naima. That's why I can afford to buy a house. So talking to a financial professional is always it's always a good step, and sometimes they can give you those types of recommendations, give you the understanding of what you should be doing with your money at different stages of your life. When you're younger, you want to be more aggressive. When you're older, you want to I don't know what you should be doing when you're older. I'm sorry. You should be a little bit more conservative and giving your money to your children.
I savings account, no. I have one of those through American Express. It's on the higher. It's been a couple months. I think like $200.
Yeah, I would just echo, really at that stage in your life, you want to focus on management, wealth management. And so everything you mentioned about being aware of employment scams and all these financial scams, I think you need to be very aware of it because they are targeting boomers and older generations who maybe are not as, aware of, these scams that are happening on the internet. I've seen one, they tried to target, like some people in our families about calling, trying to get a voice memo from you saying something, and then they use that to call your bank, so just being aware of these different ways to be taken advantage of, I would say is the number one way to manage your money right now, because you're at that point where you have to be holding on to all your nuts that you put in the yard. You don't want another squirrel to come in and take those from you. So wealth management, safe investments like index funds. If you need to start looking at another job, there's tons of great part-time opportunities that also have good benefits, especially for boomers and older citizens, especially in local communities. So just be aware of those and don't let anyone take advantage of you.
Another question.
Thank you guys so much. Y'all been amazing. And I think you had some TikToks and I say no reels, but TikToks. But you talked about how having different checking accounts to help kind of alleviate like spending. What do you guys recommend in terms of, or how do you guys typically lay out like this is my spending account, this is my bills account, is it all put in one and then separated? What's doing y'all's tactics to help control over spending or unspending or guilt-free spending?
Perfect, and chapter 3 in the book. Kind of the layout, but I always suggest at least three accounts. So one is your bill pay account, because your bills have to be paid. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I like to have a house to live in, and I like to have food to eat. So your bills need to be paid. So your bill pay account should be at a bank that is national, that's easy to be accessible. I prefer one that at least has a Visa card, and I'm very specific about the type of card that the bank uses because Visa is the most accepted, widely accepted across all merchants. American Express is the least accepted because they have high fees, so some people don't like to work with MS. I get it. The second bank that you want to have is your savings account. So your savings account should be a high yield savings account, and it should be at least 3 times the national average. The Fed just cut rates. I know that might not mean much to a lot of people, but what that means is like our savings accounts are going to start having a drop in it. So they're going to start deprioritizing us saving as much, and when the Fed drops their rates, the high yield savings accounts are going to take a dip. And then the third account that you want to have is your spending account. And that's a spending account that you are free to use for whatever kind of money, whatever things that you want to buy. So, and I like to have them all at 3 different institutions to create that separation. But it's also a cybersecurity app as well. Banks are 300 times more likely to experience a cyber attack. So if your bank is under a cyber attack and you do not have access to money, you wouldn't have access to money until they can recuperate whatever or figure out where the hacker happened. So that could be anywhere from a couple hours to a couple of days. So then that would mean that you don't have access to any of your money for a couple of hours or a couple of days. And they can't tell you unless they won't be able to tell you or know when you'll have access to funds.
I mean, I have one last question, and it's what are your guys' tips for all of us to plan for the next 5 years?
So when you're in college, they give you a syllabus, right? Or it's not a syllabus. They give you a course outline. Your freshman year, they give you, so you know what classes you want to take from the first time you start all the way to your final senior year. Because most people find setting goals, especially setting goals for over a couple of years, like kind of daunting. But in every aspect of our lives, we're kind of already shown like how to pre-plan over a couple of years. So kind of think of your goals and your next step in your life as like a college syllabus or a college curriculum outline, where the first year you're learning how to do some new things and you're trying to figure out what type of investing you like, what types of things that you like. And then your sophomore year, you're moving into something a little bit more strategic. And maybe the end goal after your 4 years is to buy a house or is to start a business. Like, think about what you want to do to your end goal, and then think about all the steps that you need to do to get there. Because it's not just enough to have goals. You really need an action plan. One of my favorite books is Atomic Habits. I know that's kind of cliche, but I love Atomic Habits. And the one thing that he said, that James Clear said that always stuck out to me was winners and losers have the same goals. Like, winners and losers, they both are in the race to win, but the person who wins is the one who has the systems and the strategy behind it.
That was the drop mic. I should have gone first. I'll keep my response really short. I think that's exactly what I would say as well. Really well said. My only thing to add there would be that give yourself grace, having that 5-year plan. Sometimes things don't go right. We've seen so many layoffs happen recently, and none of the people that were laid off had that in their 5-year plan. So give yourself grace. If things, if your train goes off track, that doesn't mean that it's crashing. It just means it's going to a different destination. Don't lose hope. But also, I think one of the things that has personally given me the most financial freedom is having that safety net and having my emergency savings. Having 6 months of emergency savings, which was the total amount of my monthly, actual expenses, the bills that I needed to pay, my mortgage, my rent, the bills, the electricity, utility, your phone bill. Make a bucket. How much is that each month? Multiply it by 3 to 6. Your goal should be to save that amount of money. I think you can all do it within 5 years. It's absolutely doable, but having that gives you financial freedom. When I quit my job to become a content creator, the only reason my husband and I were able to do that was because we had those emergency savings and that safety net. If you're at a position where you get let go or you want to change careers or whatever, you need to move to take care of family who's sick, having that safety net will make such a big difference. So set that as one of your goals as well.
All right, and that's that on that. So, we still have drinks and food in the back, and then we're going to get ready for the book signing. It is a really great feat to pull off something like this. So I'm super grateful for everyone. And if you love the book, make sure you share it online. Let people know the book is now available for pre-sale. So if you see one thing before we leave. If you look inside your bags, there's 2 things. There's a pen and there's like either an orange or a little manila colored it's a check. Now, I know checks are very old school and a lot of people don't. My mama had me write checks, so yeah, my parents are bookers too. So, they are manifestation checks. So, going back to what is your dream salary, or what is the amount of things you want to accomplish or you want to have in the next 5 years. Write a check to yourself, manifest that, and you can use that as a bookmark when you are going through your workbook. Thank you so much.
Well, like you said, it's more food and drinks. You got a bunch of out of here.
The more you drink, the more you eat.
Right.
Get that.
Thank you for my.
Nice to meet you. How are you? Good. Tell me good.
Girl, I'm trying to be like you. Girl, I got to walk home. Can I ask you go?
It's very
To a wonderful thank you. I love
You gonna sign mine at home that I already started on.
during like that whole college mess up part one, I realized I should stop listening to my parents. And then wow, I remember all those
I just wanna
but I don't need your mama.
Yeah.
I'm just now getting into being like, okay, it's okay to say that.
Yeah. Because when you lean into it, that's really how it happens. And you did the first panel. That was so fun. You did a wonderful job. Kept the crowd going. That's exactly what Well, thank you. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Huge mosquito bite.
Yeah, it's like biting my hand. Is you smiling in the camera? So I'm recording so you can take stills from me. Thank you. You're so sweet. Oh, you guys are so good. Thank you. Okay, I'll take a line.
Hey, all right, how you doing?
I am well.
Actually, I just signed. I signed a deal with Vital, and me and my friend are writing the first pilot for Tunes, for like the Four Dummies series. Yeah, that's where we're gonna have that. We don't offer like residency, but I did get.
Pull your book up. Pull your book up.
I have to get her there.
Nothing special.
Okay, yeah, just text me and because I haven't closed the house yet, but I bought the house, so I'm gonna do the housewarming soon too. But it's like it's not. Yeah, it's not like it's not like that hard. Yeah, okay, all right. We're still here.
Money.
To your favorite.
So she went with this one, huh?
I love lazy girl drawings. That's one of those reasons
Sign what you want. That's what I want.
She's not a pro yet. So when she get to be a pro, that's when they sign what you want.
Not yet? All right.
Alright, this is Michael James, the Bougie Budgeter, and I am so excited. I'm so grateful for my first book launch, Money in Your 20's, the financial workbook for the young, rich, and responsible.